We're here at Stuart and Florida Boatworks. We're looking at Greg Block's boat. He's building a real custom 27 Stuart. Twin motors, 300 Yamahas for power. It's pretty much custom everything. Custom T-top, stand on the console top, full controls upstairs. We're painting the decks. We're doing faux teak. It's soup to nuts to be a really special custom boat. The inspiration for this boat is he saw a custom Carolina boat called the Grander, which was done with satin black tower on it. And he wanted to kind of match that with the silver and dark charcoal paint, metallic, really make the boat pop. So we tried our best not to make it exactly like that, but put his own little style to it, kind of hit his little flair, but in that same kind of theme. We get pretty elaborate here. We're not a complete custom builder, we're a semi-custom builder, and we'll do whatever the customer wants to make it look cool. So when it comes down to doing the lamination process and the infusion, we've got the Butler boys, I always call them. We've got Chris Butler, the head guy, Colton and Cameron, his sons. They do a phenomenal job with our infusion. I like to bring everybody together, and one guy told me one time, none of us are as smart as all of us. So I get everybody together as a team, and come up with a game plan to build the best boat we possibly can build.
Today we are working on Greg's Block's 27. We're going to go ahead and get it skinned. We infuse here, so we do 3-ounce skins on our infusion, so that way the heat from the infusion doesn't print through the hull. And we go through and spray the resin on and roll out all the air and make sure that the shell is nice and tight. That's the shell of the whole boat, is the skin. And then we do the strakes. When we do the strakes, we put 2 1708s, stagger them. Then we come back after that's kicked and fill it with a putty, and then you encapsulate the putty, and then it goes into infusion where we start laying our glass. And after all the layers and all the core material and stringers and everything are in the boat, we go ahead and put the bag on. Then once the bag gets on, we suck it down. We go ahead and put all our hoses, and then we run it into our main feed bucket where we're going to pour our resin into, and then we pull the trigger. An open laminate is anywhere from a 60% resin to 40% glass ratio, where you're 60% fiberglass and 40% resin and infusion. Resin is really brittle. The more resin you throw it apart and put it apart, it causes it to be weak. Fiberglass is where you're going to get all your strength. And by infusing, it actually encapsulates all the fiberglass, and it makes sure that you have no air in the entire part. It's lighter, it's stronger, it's better than a hand-laid part. Building boats, this was my dream when I was a child, to build boats. It may sound crazy to other people, but my dad's been in it for 25 years, and it's something that I wanted to do when I was a kid. And they're like babies to me. I have a child of my own, and we watch it grow as it goes along, and then once it finally goes, it's like, oh, that was an accomplishment. We love our boats. We strive to be the best boat company, just like everyone else does. But we actually, we're a small knit group, and we all get each other, and we all work with each other very well. And that's a really good thing to have when you're building boats. If everyone's on the same page, then nothing should fail.
Well, we got the boat back out of the mold now. All our parts and pieces are made. So now we just we do a little prep work, making sure it's a good quality piece, sand it down, block it, get it ready for paint over at Two Rivers. So I think it's getting ready to get some little glitter on it, little flash, little shine. I'm really looking forward to getting the boat back so we can do our job and put our boat together.
At Two Rivers Boatworks, we got contacted by Stuart Boatworks, who happen to be our next door neighbors, about doing a custom paint job on a brand new boat for one of their customers. It was quite an honor for Stuart Boatworks to approach us about doing this job for them, especially the type of job that they wanted. It was not just a normal paint job. It's a custom metallic paint job with possibly 2 of the hardest colors to get even and straight, no blotches, really, really difficult. When we got this job from Stuart Boatworks, because it's a new build, we were fortunate enough to get the boat in various components, which makes painting a lot easier. We got the cap first. We prepared the cap, we got the base down, we got one coat of clear down on it. Looks awesome. And then we had to prep the tow rail for Monique. Monique came in and did her faux teak, and boy, you're hard pressed to tell that that's not teak. She did a fantastic job. She's probably one of the best at what she does. She finished up, we got a couple more coats of clear on the boat. We then started prepping the inside of the boat for paint. When you put the metallics on it, it's going to magnify that slight imperfection. So we really took our time and filled and fed that boat until everything was perfect and looked just right. What people often don't realize is that when you paint a boat, 98% of the job is all about the preparation. When the guy comes and he puts his paint over, he's got to be good, but he's only as good as the work that was done before. And I really think that my team went above and beyond in getting the prep work done on that. They worked really, really hard. They worked long hours, and they did a fantastic job. And I'm really proud of the work my team did on that boat. The owner of the boat also found out about a new Awlgrip product called the HDT Clear. It's a very, very hard clear. It has a lot of depth to the clear. The only thing about this clear is it's not just a straightforward clear to paint. You almost need a degree in chemistry just to mix the clear. So basically, we spray the clear on, we've got to let it cure, we've got to sand it again before we put the next coat of clear on. So essentially, it ends up being a job where you are literally painting a boat 3 times. But the quality of clear over that SE metallic is spectacular. So Monique came in, she's done the tow rail. We've got the clear on. It is looking awesome. I'm so excited about this project. I really have a good feeling of what it's going to look like at the end. So over at Two Rivers Boatworks, we're in the fortunate position to have got one of Stuart Boatworks boats over here to do a custom paint job on it. And we are getting ready to paint the hull sides. We're handing the boat over to the French twins to paint. These two guys have literally grown up building boats, and they have a wealth of experience that far exceeds their years. I'm really looking forward to seeing what these two can pull off.
All right, my name's Sterling French. I'm here at Two Rivers Boatworks. I'm in charge of overseeing all the composite work and all of the prep work up into paint.
My name's Stuart French. We're twins. I come in and basically pull the trigger on all the top coat.
We grew up right here, born and raised right here in Stuart. We've been building boats and working composites from start to finish with local companies since we were about 14, 15 years old.
17.
No, we built at L&H the 33 for Doug and
We were
us.
kids like holding up glass covered
Dude,
in resin.
it don't
like,
matter. Okay,
Yeah.
so, but at 15, I got a ride to Bonadeo Boatworks to build his first hulls from Dad before I got my freaking Toyota Previa on the road. I got
got a
dropped
good
off
point
there.
there.
So, I didn't even have a license, dude, and we were building the freaking first ones for Bonadeo.
Yeah,
so.
I remember I accidentally punched you in the face at school at the end of the day, and you wanted to give me a ride to the job. I had to walk, so it was high school, 10th, 11th grade. Yeah.
Good times. So we've been around the block, you know, with the paint stuff, man.
So what's cool about this project is we're taking a gel coat boat all the way to finish in one day. Basically what we did is, well, what he did and his crew, they prepped the boat with 320 and taped off everything they didn't want paint on. So from there, you give it a nice blow wipe, get all your dirt off, and then you want to use all prep and clean the surface really well.
When you prep for a paint job, it's very, very crucial that you pretty much get in your mind that it's like a sterile field. I mean, like a surgical room, zero contamination. You want to make sure that every little speck of dust is off that paint job. If that means tacking it 2 or 3 times, basically whatever you got to do to minimize dust is definitely going to help the end product.
After that, The reason that we're using Awlgrip's quick build is because the hull is perfect out of the mold. So there's not a whole lot of prep work to do. It's one coat application. You lay it on just like a finished paint. You want to lay it on nice and wet, and you'll see it has good coverage too. You let that flash for, I recommend 30 minutes, and it lays out really nice. One other major aspect to the project is that you want to clean your gun properly in between your sealer, in between your base. I recommend using Awlgrip's thinner, the thinner that's used for the product. You won't have any of those leftover remnants trying to spit out of your gun and affecting your next coat, especially with your clear. After that, the application with the SE base is a 2-coat application. It's basically a finish coat for your first coat, and then a finish coat your second coat, and you do a drop coat, kind of mist in to help those metallics all blend together as you finish a section, and that really shows in the finish. So from there, we're using the Awlgrip HDT clear, and your application with that is basically like all your clears, but it's on another level of quality.
So what makes the HDT clear so amazing is the application process. You could put the HDT clear on, and appreciate that. What's so amazing about the HDT clear, like I was saying, is you basically put a couple coats on, 2 wet coats, just like my brother said. The next day, you can scuff this with a DA at 500 grit and go ahead and do 2 more nice wet coats. And why the HDT is so amazing is because after those 2 last coats, you get a perfect mirror finish, which is what everybody wants when you got a high-end product. You want that perfect mirror finish, and that's what you get.
The French twins did a fantastic job on painting the Stuart Boatworks 27. We pulled it out in the sun today. Wow, 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 wow. What a good looking boat. I can't wait for the owner to come and have a look at the boat, and I can't wait to see the boat once it's rigged and ready to get on the water. At Two Rivers Boatworks, we've been doing a boat for Stuart Boatworks, our next door neighbours. We got the boat in a bit of a custom paint job. My guys have done a ton of work painting the hull, painting the inside of the boat. The boat has gone back next door for rigging, and while they've been rigging the boat, we've been finalising the final paint job on the outboard motors. The owner of the boat wanted them painted satin black, which I think would have looked really, really neat. But once we had painted the motors, they just didn't meet our expectation. And so we've decided to go back and have the motors painted to match the hull color. So the motors are over in paint at the moment, and I'm sure that Sterling and his crew will do a great job, and these motors are going to look fantastic.
All right, so here at Two Rivers, we were given the 27 Stuart Boatworks motors to paint, and originally we went ahead and painted them the satin black. They came out beautiful, and the only problem was when we matched the satin up to the aluminum tower, it wasn't a perfect match, so the owner decided to go ahead and reshoot them. We shot them the stone gray, which is the color of the hull. And when you're painting motors, let me just start by telling you they're super, super intricate. There's a lot of crazy details, mainly up in the trim and tilt section of the motor and just under the main cowling there. There's hundreds of little details to tape off, and it's quite the journey, but I think in the end it's totally worth it. So when spraying the SE on the motors, it's a very different process on the hull. You have a lot more surface area, and you can turn your volume and your pressure up, and that's what you need with SE and majority of your metallics. So with the motors, it was more of turning the air down and turning the volume down. And like I said, there's a lot of detail, so you really had to get up under there and just kind of shoot and coat until you see good coverage, and then you pull back a little bit, turn your fan up, and just kind of fog that in. The main thing you want to do when you're spraying the parts with the SE, you always want to go to those burn through areas and tack those off first. It just kind of brings everything together, and that's really what you want before you can lay down your final 2 coats. So you'll tack those areas off, give it 15 minutes, come back, do a full coat on that, and if you have great coverage, you'll wait another 30 and come back behind that with another wet coat, and that usually finishes off the base coat for SE. So everything's said and done with the finished stone gray SE on the cowlings. I'm just very happy with the finished product. I think even though it was a bummer to have to reshoot all of the engines, it was just totally worth it. The product just looks superior, and I just can't wait to see it all come together on the boat. We put a lot of hard work into this paint work and trying to make sure it just comes out perfect. I want the boat to really stand out, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing it run out in the ocean.
Sterling and his crew did a fantastic job painting these motors in the hull color. They look fantastic, they're glossy, they look like they're almost wet. We're finishing up the Stuart Boatworks project now with the boat going back and them putting everything together.
All right, here at Two Rivers Boatworks, we are doing the final touches on the 27 Stuart Boatworks hull. It is all put together and it is looking gorgeous. They've got that thing looking so sweet. So basically, I'm just gonna sand the hull, give it a buff, and give it that final bling before it goes to the owner. So when I started sanding the hull, I always start with 1500. It's a very light grit. You don't have to worry about burning through too much. But because we put on the new Awlgrip HDT clear, this clear is super rock hard, and 1500, it was basically just polishing a rock. So I ended up having to drop down to 1200 grit. When you're sanding, wet sanding or buffing anything and or dry sanding, the heaviest grit you really want to use is 1000 grit. Anything heavier than that, you're really gonna have trouble getting those scratches to go away. So for HDT, 1200 is the grit. When you're sanding the hull, what you're really looking for is the orange peel to kind of go away. What orange peel is it's these little tiny dimples, and you'll see the paint just looks like it has a little bit of peel to it. You'll be sanding that consistently and you're waiting for that to fade away. You'll see it when you're dry sanding it. You want to take a rag before it gets too dusty and wipe it down and really look at what you got. If you still see a little bit more of that orange peel in there, don't be afraid to go ahead and sand over that again. Because like I said, you work small areas, and once all that orange peel is gone from that section, you're now free to move on to the next section. You know that that's going to come out looking perfect. So on a lot of paint jobs, and everybody knows it, there's always little bits of dirt, and there's little bugs, and welcome to South Florida, there's all types of creatures. So you get little stuff in your paint job, don't worry about it. This is what the sanding and buffing process is for, and believe it or not, you can get rid of some pretty big stuff. On this boat, actually, in particular, we had a nice little mosquito that just was flying around the booth and finally ended up in the clear. And believe it or not, we were able to get rid of him, no problem. All right, so now we're starting the buffing process. The very first thing to do is make sure that there's no contaminants on the boat. Pretty much with the compounds, I like to use a Super Duty cut. It's like a heavier cutting compound, has a little more grit into it. First thing you definitely want to do is go ahead and get your compound and pour it in like a little 1-quart cup, and get a little brush that you can use to dip that in and brush it on the boat. You'll notice on my brush, I wrap tape around that aluminum shaft or whatever you want to call it that grips all the bristles, because that aluminum little ring right there will scratch the crap out of your boat and you'll be kicking yourself forever because of it. So definitely tape that up. You really want to work out like a 2-foot by 2-foot section and get comfortable with what you're doing first. Go ahead and dip your brush in there, put some compound on the boat. Little goes a long way with buffing compound, so go ahead and put a couple dabs on there. And you'll notice when I get the buffing wheel, I kind of start it on a low speed and just get it to spin and move that buffing compound around to cover that 2x2 area. Once you have the area covered, go ahead and turn the volume up. You'll see you have a little dial on your buffer. Go ahead and turn it up to about 2,000 RPMs, 2,500, and go ahead and buff over that area again. And the way you finish out that area is by turning the speed all the way up and glazing lightly over the area. And that high speed with that wool will really take away all types of hazing and scratches, and you'll be left with a pretty good product after the first coat of buffing. It's rule number 1 that you always buff the area at least twice. If you want a really superior product, I recommend buffing over the area 3 times, but it can get shinier. And how we do that is we use a material, it's basically your finish compound. It's very, very fine. So you can take your pad and go ahead and put a little dab or 2 or a little swirl on the pad, and then take your pad and press it up against the boat, and you can start pulling the trigger and just working that material in just like we did the compound. Only this time, feel free to work in a 4x4 foot section. All you're really doing is polishing the surface. You're basically getting all the very, very light residues that you don't even see from the initial compound. You're getting all that stuff off. So you can go over it a couple times if you want to, but one time's usually pretty good. And trust me, when you're done with the finesse, you'll see the difference in the polish. Then take a little white rag and wipe over that, and you'll be very, very excited with the finished product. All right, so here at the finish line for the 27 Stuart Boatworks here at Two Rivers, we are very, very excited about this boat. There's gone a lot of effort and a lot of energy has been put into this boat, and I'm very, very proud to be part of this project, and I'm looking forward to doing more work for these guys, and I think that this boat's gonna basically just speak for itself, so look out, here she comes.
Here at Stuart Boatworks, we're back. We got Mr. Block's boat just about done. I mean, it just stands out, it pops. The quality of construction is awesome. He had a lot of great ideas. Everything was totally custom, but when it comes out and you see the boat, it looks beautiful.
So this was a really great day. We decided we'd get an early start and head out and run it a little bit before we showed the boat to Greg. It's a very involved, complicated build with a lot of cool features to it, and we got pretty lucky and virtually everything worked on the first go-round. So that was a great day. Then we got back, great morning, and then we got back to the dock and picked up Greg, took him for his first ride.
You know, we've had a lot of boats over the years, and we really wanted to try something a little different, make it a little unique and not have that same weight look. We saw Jarrett Bay's boat. They did a two-tone and thought that would make a good scheme for this boat.
The color combination was something that he chose, and we spent a great deal of time looking at a variety of colors. That was special in itself. The teak or faux teak tow rail and pod, I just think it all sets itself off just really, really well.
Just the package, his whole helmet and that little pod that my guy Alex makes, that faux teak pod. He dips it and it just pops that whole steering wheel off. And to me, that and the faux finish tow rail just give it a little bit of Stuart class. You don't need it, but boy, it's nice to have it.
I think the boat going down the waterway with black outriggers, black antennas, all the pipe work being black and the combination of metallic, I mean, this boat is going to turn people's heads.
It was a really hardcore project. There's a lot of hours in this boat. People spent a lot of time, extra efforts put into everything. It's amazing. In particular, the way the boat handles is incredible. We just went across 2-foot wakes, and there was just, you don't feel them even up in the tower. So it's going to be a great boat to go fish with.
The boat handles amazing because we have that real sharp engine, that rounded transom on it. It's a nice soft ride. The Yamaha 300s, they're just Yamaha 300s. They're awesome motors. They got all kinds of torque. They're just, in my opinion, they're just the motor to have. So it makes a great package. Do you need 600 horsepower on the back of that boat? No, but it sure is nice to have it. When you push that throttle, and the boat just goes.
I've had a lot of towers over the years, and towers are awesome, but also they're a little bit of pain in the neck. So this was a way we were able to put up a stand-through station on the top of the console, and that really allowed us to get some visibility, extra visibility for fishing, but at the same time not have to lower a tower to trailer, go under bridges, things like that. So it's kind of the best of both worlds we could come up with.
If you've never run a boat with a second station, it just broadens your horizons, literally, no pun intended. And Greg is going to fish this boat. As cool looking as it is and as tricked out as the aesthetics are, Greg fishes hard. And that boat's going to see a lot of fish and a lot of fish blood, and that's what he wanted.
One of the reasons I wanted to work with Stuart Boatworks is because they're very flexible in some of the custom things we wanted to do. Like, we hid the speakers up under the gunnel. You can't see them. You can Bluetooth right to them. Really cool feature there. And for example, the coffin box, it actually doesn't come with rod holders on it. We were able to position those so they're not in the way, but we have extra rod holders up there. Some of the other custom features are like hidden fasteners. You won't see screw heads along any of the plastic that's on the boat. The anchor locker and the bilge access, we had them painted and polished to have a yacht finish to them. a lot of neat little extras they were willing to do that actually didn't cost a ton of money, but ended up making it a nicer boat to be on and clean up and actually use on a regular basis.
You know, he and I worked very closely together to get this boat to be essentially exactly what he wanted. He's owned many boats. So he wanted to nail this down. I think we did.
Every little piece on that boat, he thought real long and hard about. We met with him. He met with Bobby and me. Little trials and tribulations, and he got it to come out just right. So I don't know what we could have done to make it any better, but I'm sure we'll try next time.
We've owned numerous boats over the years, so to pick one and say it's my dream boat, you know, it's probably got to come down to this one due to the fact that we got the silver color right on there. We did all these little fishing features that'll work, and it's an easy boat. We designed it so 1, 2, maybe 3 people fish on it, and you're in and out and cleaned up pretty easy and quick, and so it's a great boat, and I highly recommend Stuart Boatworks.